Welcome back live to GM Place. Alain Vigneault just settling in to join us now on After Hours. He had a week to remember here in Vancouver, although nice finish to it with a big win over the Stanley Cup champion Pittsburgh Penguins. I don't want to say anything to you to get the mic on, but now you got it, Alain. So given all that went on here this week, a week in which you said you had NHL Vice President Coley Campbell on speed dial, how significant was tonight's win?
Well, it was really important. I mean, it was important for our group to get the focus back on playing hockey. There was a tremendous amount of distractions this week, and it was a Stanley Cup champions coming in town, and we said we had to put our best game on the ice. I think we did that for about 30 minutes, and we met a young goaltender that had a tough night, and we were able to capitalize on it.
Glenn.
Tell me a little something about the Sedins that I don't know, because I'm watching these two guys.
I can finally tell them apart. Is that good?
That's a good thing. And now they seem to have just found like this perfect guy in Burrows who can play with them. And it's hard to play with them because they've got this ESP. They make passes that you must, behind the bench, want to pull your hair out. But it always seems to work for them. What don't we know about that?
Well, you know, ever since we put Alex with the Twins last year in the second half of the season, and it wasn't an easy decision. It was a lucky decision on our part because
it's coaching. So
yeah, no, it's not. It wasn't coaching. Alex Burrows and Ryan Kessler were a really good duo, but for some reason we decided to make some line changes. We were struggling a little bit, and all of a sudden those three guys just clicked. And it's not just about Burrows going to the front of the net and screening the goaltender. He reads off well the Twins, and you know, those guys make plays that, like you say, sometimes during the game, I'm pulling my hair a little bit, especially when they're at the other team's blue line or our blue line. But 90% of the time they work. So as a coach, you got to give them that creativity, that latitude to make those plays. And, you know, they've progressed every year since I've been here, and they deserve a lot of credit for their hard work.
I think we've often said that 98% of the players in the NHL get benched for those blind behind-the-back passes, but not those guys, because you're right, they work more often than not. All right, Alexander Burrows came in for some heavy criticism on our pregame show tonight. Not just for the incident with referee Stéphane Auger, but for his past as well. And I want to give you a chance to respond.
Well, I think it's really quite unfair from your boy Ron MacLean to go after Alex the way he did tonight and take the footage that he did tonight. You know, Alex is a real passionate guy. Maybe Ron MacLean should have had the footage of, you know, Auger and Burrows skating 31 seconds together prior to the game. That footage has never come out. You only see Auger and Burr talking to one another for about 40 seconds, but they did 2 full loops together in talking. And Stéphane Auger and Alex Burrows agreed on everything that was said, except for one thing that Auger didn't agree, that Burrows said, "I'm going to get you." That's the one thing they didn't agree on. The league said, and I understand the league's position on it, there was no third neutral party on the ice to prove that what was said by Burrow was true. But they can't be a third neutral party on the ice. There's 40 players, there's 4 referees, the coaches are behind the bench, and the league pointed out that Alex didn't really have a reaction when that was told. Well, all I know is when he came off the ice, as soon as his conversation with Auger, he told one of his teammates exactly what had happened and that it was going to be a long night for him. They exchanged words, and in the third period, I mean, there's one penalty, the first penalty that's for diving, that might be questionable, but the second penalty is a phantom penalty. And the league talked about no reaction. Well, how about Alex's reactions on those 2 calls? How about his reaction at the end of the game, the emotion that was in his voice? You don't make things like this up. And I believe, and I told the league, that Alex Burrows is telling the truth. I respect the league's decision, and I understand it. And I also agree that Alex shouldn't have used that form of communication to express his ill content on the situation. But at the end of the day, I believe Alex, and I believe that the circumstantial evidence proves that Alex was right.
Well, I mean, I got to give
that was a long answer.
That was pretty good. You should be in
So you
politics.
deserve the chance to
Or
respond.
coaching,
Fair
one or the
enough.
other. Hey, I give you full marks for defending the player. I mean, I think that is awesome because that sends a huge message in that locker room that this guy's got our back. Now, and I wish this. I wish the league would say, okay, what did OJ say? Come out and tell us.
They did. They did. They said that OJ and Alex agreed on everything except for the league said that OJ said that he did not say that he was going to get Alex. Everything else, the exchange on what happened in Nashville and that you embarrassed me, etc. Both parties, both Alex Burrows and Stéphane Auger, agree that that was said. The only thing they don't agree on is the final that I'm going to get you. I mean, for a referee to 5 weeks later come on the ice and talk 31 seconds with a player around the ice, I mean, and you see right now Alex's reaction. Is that the reaction of somebody that just had a bad call? Bad calls happen, or calls that don't go your way, or is that the reaction of somebody that's going, "Oh, I'm really getting it tonight"?
You know, Alain, you found common ground on this issue in your press conference here on Thursday because you said you understood the league's position, but yet you vigorously defended your player. So the translation of that to me seems to be that I always knew it would go this way, that the league would do what it could to protect Stéphane Auger, but that Alexander Burrows would be fined.
And it's
fair interpretation?
Yeah, fair. And it's normal that the league defends his employee, just like it's normal that I defend my player, only if I believe he's true. And I do believe he's true. This week there was the incident with Hordichuk, and not that I didn't defend Hordichuk, but I said I believe Bugard. I believe that Darcy Hordichuk went on the ice and said probably something to the fact, well, coach told me I had to go, just to incite the player to go on the ice and fight. But in Burrows' case, there's not a doubt in my mind with the events and the incidents that happened on the ice that he was telling the truth. And that's why he was so emotional after the game. He was almost in tears, and you just don't make that stuff up. You don't make that emotion up, and you don't make those words up.
Final point on Alexander Burrows before we move on. Much of what was discussed on the pregame show tonight dealt with his past. What do you think Alexander Burrows' reputation around the league is?
Well, I think, you know, he's an in-your-face player without a doubt that got 21 goals. He's got pretty good skills. Yes, he's playing with the Twins, but he's a guy that can put the puck in the net. He comes to play every night. You talk about a success story. A young man that started junior at 19, played 19 and 20-year-old, went to the East Coast, and from the East Coast played a couple years there, went to Manitoba, finally signed an NHL contract, and now he's playing on one of the top lines in the NHL. I mean, he did it through perseverance and hard work. And yes, I mean, sometimes on the ice, he walks that fine line and, you know, he pushes the envelope a little bit. But at the end of the day, he comes to play. He loves the game. In my mind, he's a great example. And I believe him. That's as simple as that.
There is one more point. Do you think? I'm sorry.
Go ahead. One more
but you know, you're speaking forcefully about this, and you've been very eloquent.
Is this an interrogation, by the way?
It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Are you now, or have you ever been a member of the Communist Party? No, I'm kidding.
Card carrying.
Should the league have put Stéphane Auger in the game? Should he have been one of the referees in the game, given the history between the two?
Well, I mean, obviously they've had some incidents in the past, but I think you can get around that if you turn the page on the incidents. Going to Alex 5 weeks later and talking to him for 31 full seconds, because we have the tape on that, and the league has the tape on that also. I mean, for me, is not the right thing to do. So at the end of the day, I think as an organization, obviously we're going to support our player, but we've got to turn the page on this and focus on the games. And we've got some big games coming up, and that's what we're going to do.
We will now turn the page, Glenn. Can you think of another topic by any chance?
Yeah, let's talk about some of the big games coming up. Road trip. I mean, when I saw your schedule in the summer, and you are gone from January 30th to March 10th, I know there's a little thing in the Olympics, and it's 14 games. I don't know how many time zones. I don't know how many miles you've got to travel. I know I heard the pity party from Pitt because they had an 11-day road trip. But when you look at that,
out east don't
I know
get it.
We're lazy out there. But when you look at that road trip, are you scared?
Not at all. I mean, you know what? First of all, for our team to go out east, it's always a major event. For us to go to Toronto, to go to Montreal, to go to Ottawa, to go to those Canadian cities is huge. So I think, first of all, our guys are going to be hyper motivated, really motivated to play well. And, you know, the 8 games, they're well spread out. We play well on the road. And I think that with that Olympic break in the middle there and the 6 games after that, it's going to be challenging, but I think our group can handle it.
You were the assistant coach in Ottawa.
Yes.
Remember 1992, 93?
Yes.
You had a phenomenal road record that year. Do you remember that year?
I think we won 1 game.
Yeah, Glenn's trying to make the point here that he helped you win that game.
This was the most disappointing moment of my career and my life. Now, you guys came in and you hadn't won a game in the road. It was very late in the year.
Where did
You'll
we
see
win
it
this
up
game?
on the screen in the aisle.
Yeah.
You might recognize the goaltender. No, he didn't win a Vezina. That's Glenn Healy. And that goal was late in the game, and the bench erupted like you guys had won the Stanley Cup. And I laid on the ice. I thought I was going to throw up.
There's the proof that if you don't get the goaltending, you can't win.
You want to thank Glenn now? Yeah. It was Laurie Boschman that scored the winning goal. It was a 4-3 goal, and he got one into the empty net to get the hat trick.
I tried to put those years behind me.
So
I don't remember them. So,
listen, you signed a 3-year extension in June, combined with the year you had left on your contract that essentially saw you head into this season on a 4-year deal. It's the kind of security that a lot of NHL coaches can only dream of. Does it make you a better or different coach?
Oh, it makes me the same coach. I mean, you can't talk about job security as a head coach in the NHL. This game is about winning. The pressure is there consistently, and the pressure that you put on yourself to make sure that your team is ready and performs on the ice. So, I mean, obviously, I love the fact that I've got a 4-year deal and that ownership and management have the confidence in me. But at the end of the day, we all know that this game's about winning, and if you want to keep your job, you have to win.
2-part question for me, and it's only because I never get on this lousy show. So I finally got on, so I'm going to ask it. Roberto Luongo, you make him captain. And to me, I mean, the only other goaltender was Bill Durnan years and years back. He was a guy who used to be ambidextrous, played with both hands. How did you come to that decision? And who's the best player that you've ever coached? The dream guy you say, I wish I could have 23 of him.
Well, to tell you the truth, the Roberto decision, this was during a multitude of conversations that Mike Gillis and I were having, and we were looking at characteristics that we wanted our captain to have. And, Marcus Naslund had just left. And then when we put those characteristics, those qualities that we were looking, we had quite a few players that had some of those qualities, but we only had one that had them all, and that was Roberto. I mean, he's an unbelievable example. His preparation is by far the best I've ever seen. And then when we put all those qualities together, we came up with him. And when he came to training camp that year, I asked him if he was interested in the job, and obviously he was real surprised, but he wanted that challenge. He wanted to be the guy, and that's why we made him captain. If you ask me who the best player I've ever coached...
Don't pick me.
No, but I almost had you in Montreal, but you turned our back to us.
Sorry about that. I apologize. I couldn't learn French that fast.
Exactly. But it has to be, like Roberto has to be up there. His work ethic. I mean, he had an off game last game in Minnesota. He was the first guy on the ice yesterday. He worked almost a full hour more with our goaltender coach Ian Clark. So he has to be right up there.
Okay, more with Alain Vigneault after this break. Head coach of the Vancouver Canucks is our guest on After Hours on the heels of a significant 6-2 victory over the Pittsburgh Penguins tonight. After Hours continues live from GM Place. You know, some NHL tough guys have said of their coaches, what would he know? He has never been in a scrap in his life. But that cannot be said of Bam Bam Vigneault.
And then it's Vigneault who attacks Secord. Now in front of the net, Fraser and Lapointe will tangle. And everyone paired up. Carlson trying to get away. And Secord really handing it to Al Vigneault.
You know, we had you on this program, Alain, a couple of times previously, and that footage we just found now, is your back still sore from Secord suplex?
I remember that one because we stayed like this for, it sounded like, it looked like a half an hour, but it's probably just a couple of minutes. And Al Secord kept talking in my ear saying, "Don't let me go, kid." And I was saying, "Don't worry, I'm not going to let you go." And I was grabbing his arms, and there wasn't a chance I was letting him go.
Hey, you played 42 games, 3 years in the St. Louis organization, and you definitely knew what your job was. How big is the soft spot in your heart for tough guys who make their living that way?
Well, without a doubt, I understand what they're going through, but the game has changed quite a bit from that time to today's hockey. Like in that era, you couldn't refuse a fight. I mean, if somebody challenged you, you had to go. Now today, I mean, guys talk to one another. Do you want to go? Not right now. We'll go later, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the way the fights are today and the size of the guys, like for Darcy Hordichuk to want to fight with Bugard, I mean, holy. Yeah. I mean, there's a guy that's 6'7", 6'8", real big, real strong. I mean, the players are so much bigger, faster, and stronger today that it makes me respect those gentlemen quite a bit.
We are out of time. Wish we had more of it. Thanks for joining us, Alain. I really appreciate it.
A lot of fun, guys.
Congratulations on the win tonight. So Alain Vigneault, head coach of the Vancouver Canucks. Our thanks to him for joining us on After Hours.